Welcome to the 5-Year You podcast, a show dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself one day at a time. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kat, and we promise to keep it raw, real, and relatable.
Are you ready to grow? High Five Tribe. Welcome back. I'm Andrew, and I am with Kat. How are you doing, Kat?
I'm doing well.
Good. So this episode is called You're Not Starting Over, and you came up with the idea for this episode. So I wanted you to just maybe introduce it and let us know what you're referring to when we started talking about not starting over.
Yeah, I think there's many instances in all of our lives where we feel like we're starting over, whether you are heading back to work after a long maternity leave, whether you are getting back in the dating game after breaking up in a long-term relationship. I'm trying to think of other examples right now, but there's many points in our lives where we feel like we're starting over. You know, I think of friends of ours who maybe had to close their businesses during COVID, people who have lost their homes in natural disasters. There's been a lot of those in the past few months. And what I wanted to convey with this episode is that you're not really starting over when these things happen. You are starting from experience. Everything you do in your life, everything that happens, every choice that you make teaches you something. And so when you rebuild your house, you've already been a homeowner. You've already gone through the process of buying it or knowing what you like in a house, to give just a really simple example. But I wanted to have this as an encouraging episode for anyone who's kind of going through something like that, maybe a restart in their lives, that they have more than they think going for them right now.
I like that. I think when we are looking into these, it's not so much a fresh start, because I feel like it's something that feel more like situations that are kind of forced upon you, like rebuilding a home, or, you know, your business having to shutter because of external circumstances, or, you know, finding yourself alone after being in a long-term relationship and maybe having to get back out there. I think there is a reframe that we all need to do. And that's why, you know, you're not starting over. You're getting the benefit of a lifetime of experiences to move forward on the next step. And we were talking before the show, and I was saying, you know, when you build a house, the first house you build, like a first custom home you build, you get so many things wrong. And they say typically you have to build 3 times or have 3 places before you truly know what you like and how you like it. And that's the same for a lot of things. The same thing for a business. I know, like, the first business I had, it was a great concept and I hated it by the end, because I'm like, this has tied me to, you know, being in a physical location every day. I have set hours, but I had to go through those things to understand that the next one wasn't so much starting over, it was starting the next chapter of my book. And I think part of this is like just really reframing things in our own minds to see, like, no, you know, if it's dating, it's like, I know what I don't like. I know I don't like to, you know, go out to the clubs, and I know I don't like to, you know, sit at home and do things. I like to go do these particular actions or events, and I'm looking for somebody who's also interested in those. Or I've had bad people and I want good people. It's never starting over. It's building from experience.
Yeah, I think we gain experience with age, and it's okay if your preferences change over time. And I have done a lot of forgiving my younger self for not having the experience, right? Not knowing what she didn't know, instead of looking back and being hard on myself, like, oh, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you started this business. I can't believe you did this relationship, is looking back and saying, thanks to younger me for going through everything that she went through, for all the good and the bad times, and for taking all of that as lessons. I've found with relationships, a lot of people, the older they get, like, the higher their standards get.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. I think at some point you've been through enough things that you look at it and go, no, I'm not going to tolerate this aspect of a relationship. This is not something that I'm willing to change myself for or allow in my reality. And I think, you know, having that grace to forgive yourself for your past is a really hard thing. But as you do it, you start to see things a little differently, and you start to see your life not so much as this one bad event that I wish it hadn't happened. I wish I hadn't met that person. I wish I hadn't done
Yeah.
that thing, or I wish I hadn't gone to this place. It becomes more of a understanding that I had to go through that so that I could appreciate the things now. And when in relationships, that can be kind of sticky because they're very dynamic. But again, if you use the example of building a house, you realize, you know what, I don't want a bathroom off the living room because everybody can hear that person in the bathroom when people are over, and that's not a thing that we want. So we're going to move the bathroom down the hall where it's out of the way, and we're going to
Oh,
insulate it so that, we don't hear that. It's a really silly thing, but until you've gone through it, you don't know what you do and don't like. So, sometimes it's a bathroom situation that you just got to be grateful for happened. And that can be in relationships and work and businesses and friendships. It's whatever. You just got to, it sounds crass, but you got to be happy and grateful for the crap that you've had to deal with so that you don't want to deal with that anymore.
yes. Thank you for that, Andrew. Always coming through with the connecting all the dots for us.
There you go.
Um, I just had a thought, and it's interesting that sometimes our choices, they really come from either a scarcity or an abundance mindset. And we have episodes on this, but in a scarcity mindset, you're worried that there's not enough to go around. You're worried that what you're experiencing right now is the best it's going to get. And in an abundance mindset, you feel like the perfect thing's out there for you and that there's more than enough opportunities. There's more than enough money to go around. And I think about that, like, let's say with the job market, right? Let's say you're in a job that you really dislike. Say it's really restrictive and the hours are really restrictive. And let's say you're a busy parent and you would love to have a job that's remote and flexible. But you might be so afraid to leave the job because you're worried, am I going to get hired at some other place? There's all these layoffs. Is someone really going to let me work from home? I'm worried I'm not going to get paid as much. And you kind of talk yourself out of it. Again, each choice that you make is going to come from experience. And as you go through different jobs, you'll find out what you like and what you don't like. And some people, once they work remotely, are like, I'm never going back to the office again. And then some people who work remotely are like, oh my gosh, I really need to go to the office for my sanity and talk to other adults and get out of the house and whatever. So even with things like work, you get to decide what you will and won't tolerate. And then if you have an abundance mindset, you can go out and make sure you find the thing that's meant for you.
I like that. I think it's also very permissive to go, maybe I want this and maybe I don't, but you're not going to know whether you want it or not until you go for it and have it. Touching on the abundance and scarcity mindset, I think that it is always more fearful to let go of what you know for the potential of what might be, because it's limitless potential technically, but when we are in our place of comfort, leaving that comfort zone is very, very challenging. And you'll often hear people who are going through those moments, those expansive moments where it's not necessarily dark night of the soul so much, but it's like something gets thrust upon them. The job
Yeah.
ends, the pandemic, or, all these
Yeah.
things that come up. And then in those moments, it's very hard. Not going to negate that. But as time goes on and you look back, you start to see, wow, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because that led to this, that led to this, that led to this. And now I'm in this wonderful job, relationship, new place, new location, home, whatever. That wouldn't have happened had I not been forced out of that initial thing that I was way too comfortable in to actively leave. Somebody had to force me out. And I think there's a lot to be said about having a positive expectation on this stuff. You and I have been talking a lot about positive expectations lately offline. And I think one of the things that is really beneficial in your starting over is to understand that everything can be happening for you if you choose to see it from that point of view. So when something negative happens, instead of coming at it with a label of good or bad, you come at it with a label of curiosity and wondering why this is happening and how it might be beneficial to you. No problem saying that. I had to like talk with the revenue services this morning, and
Good time.
good times that were had by none. But at the same time, afterwards, I'm like, I'm wondering why this is happening. I wonder what the lesson is here. And I got curious about it rather than, what I would have done in the past, which is just let my anxiety spike to 1 billion and, like be panicked and worried and fearful all day and shaking. It was just a very different thing. So to look at it that way, to take even like a situation that's kind of crummy that you would rather not deal with and go, I wonder why. I wonder what this is going to lead to. Just kind of shifts your labeling of it as like, this is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious about more stuff now. But again, that kind of leads more to a positive expectation. If I wonder what that's going to lead to.
Yeah, I actually had this thought of another example is when people have a second child, which you had the experience of, but of course I had twins. So just parenthood got thrust upon me in a very real way. But a lot of people, like they're having their second baby but you're not ever like starting over at that point, right? You're not like, some people will say that, oh, I can't believe we're starting over, going back to these newborn sleepless nights. But it's like, there's so much less anxiety for a lot of those parents the second time around because like they know what to expect and they know that babies cry and they know like they're going to get spit up on their clothes and all these different things. And it's like, you're starting from experience. You're not starting over. You are a different person now.
Yeah, it's very true. My youngest is my son, and very different experience with them. Of course, they're completely different personalities and stuff, like all kids seem to be. But even now, as my eldest daughter gets ready to go away to college and do all this stuff, I am still very first time at stuff with her. And I know when it comes to my son, it's like, oh yeah, you can do that. I've already gone through that trial, so that's fine. I got the experience. Yeah, you can go, you can go game online when you're, you can have this social media platform, but you can't have this one because there were a lot of problems with that. So it's just kind of interesting how, and again, you're the middle child and I'm the eldest, and it's a very different life experience because you are in my role doing the first and blazing the trail.
Right.
And you kind of get the benefit of having somebody walk the hard steps first. And not that it makes your life any easier or anything like that. Just, it's a different experience. But
I think it does. I mean, there's just so many jokes about like the oldest child and, parents being a little bit more stringent. And then by the time the parents have the baby, they're just like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
But
we'll put that dirt in your mouth. It's fine.
Yeah, but exactly, right? Because with your first baby, you're like, oh no. And by the time your last one, you're like, nutrients. So.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter was, she had a bubble put around her, not physically, because that would have suffocated her and that would have been a bad parent.
Upon. Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, yes. But yeah, my son was like, it's just different. And, and it's because your nervous level is down. So.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've had that too with starting over, like with this podcast and this business. It's very different for us, but we've often referred to like, look at all the things that we gained from everything we've had to do in the past, like the website stuff. We won't get on the technical stuff because literally the only two people that care about it are us, and people are listening in not to learn about SEO. But I believe that when you look back on your life, and this has been so transformative for me, and I've shared this with you multiple times, it's only when you look back on your life that you see how things were lining up for you and around you to take you to where you are. And while you're doing that today, it's still lining you to take you up somewhere different. Now, your intention plays a big part in that. But when you can look back and go, in business, you know what? I had to do accounting at this place, and that helped me to realize that I hate accounting. And then I learned about marketing and really liked that, which led me to email, which led me to this and that and all these things. And you can see the path when you look back, and it's really, really beneficial for you to look back on that path daily, to have gratitude for all the things that had to happen, and to know that the things that are happening today are leading you forward to a better place of something amazing. But just knowing that it's happening for you all the time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's really hard to see that in the hard moments, right? Like when you are in the middle of a devastating breakup, let's say with someone that you thought you were going to marry, it's really hard to see, oh, this is happening for me. in those very early, like aftermath, right?
Absolutely.
But as you go on and you grow and you live in different places and you meet someone who's a better fit for you, then you can see, oh, I understand why that happened. It prepared me for this. And then each new thing, again, you come at it with experience. It is not a fresh blank slate. You're coming at it with knowledge, with understanding, and with more information about yourself. So each bad thing that happens to you, even some of the worst things that have ever happened to you, they make you who you are. They contribute to your growth for better or for worse, and they shape you into the person that you want to be eventually.
I I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think when we're looking at things, it's a good exercise once in a while to look at the awful things, like just the awful things. And I'll go out, I'll go on the record and say my own thing for this, but it's a good thing to look back on those really terrible times and understand why they may have happened to you and what the good that came out of it was. So my story in this is that I was abused by my sister for multiple years. She has severe autism, so it's not like there was no provocation or anything like that. But and it was hell. I from everybody's accounts that I've explained this situation to in detail, they've told me it's you lived through hell for the better part of your childhood. But so I have gone back and I've looked at this. This has made me so much more compassionate for other people. When somebody says they're having a hard time, I know what a hard time feels like. I have learned from that. But another thing that it's really given me appreciation for is to understand that we all have struggles. And I think sometimes when you don't have struggles younger on in life, you might look at things and go, not that bad. But what it's given me is this huge bowl of empathy for people and to meet them where they're at and to accept them. And in doing that, when I speak to anybody, and Kat, you know this from the first time we ever spoke, is I connect with people on a much deeper level. And it is because I genuinely care about people, because I learned that, the stuff that happens to us isn't always our fault. It's our experience that we're going through. And I just have a much bigger heart because of my sister. My sister is my greatest teacher, and I am still learning lessons from this as time goes on. And I think that's a lot of times that what happens to us is some of these bad things that happen are meant to teach us lessons. And once we finally learn the lessons, I think we're able to kind of let it go and move on. But there's a lot of lessons sometimes tied up in that stuff.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, so that's kind of the question, is to take a hard thing in your life and go, how did I benefit from this? What was the good things? What am I a better person because of this event?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging for people. And, we can all look at situations, especially with children, and say, like, there's no purpose for this level of suffering. But I think that if you've been through something hard, you can look back and say, how has what happened allowed me to help others? And I think that is a way that you can find meaning in some of the most difficult things that you've dealt with. Whether you became widowed at a really young age, you can help other people with the situation, right? Whether you invested money like with the wrong person, right, and lost your retirement savings. What?
Done it. Not my retirement savings, but I made some really awful investments in people, and
Yeah, I
I,
was
I
about to
lost them.
say, well, you're okay with that.
No, no, I meant like I've picked bad. I've
made
I've made
made
bad choices.
investing mistakes. Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, you learn from those things, right? And there's nobody with a perfect record of, oh, this person's never made a money mistake. This person's never lied. This person's never made a relationship mistake. All of us have had good and bad instances in this life, some way worse than others. And sometimes it seems other people have it unfairly better than others. But what you have to understand is that we come here to Earth, right?
Yeah.
To learn lessons, to impact the world, to make a difference, to discover our gifts and our purpose. And we all have one. And everything that has happened to you has contributed to what your purpose is as you walk around today.
I like that. I think it's true. I think, I think we all walk through a fire at some point in our life to harden us and to kind of not harden us like to have like a front, but to kind of mold us into the person we've always been meant to become. And I think sometimes we resist that. But when you have those moments thrust on you, and whoever's listening to this right now, if you're going through this and you're going like, I can't see the good, that's okay. You don't need to see the good to get in it today. You probably won't. But know that it's happening for you, not to you. And something great can come from it if you start setting the expectation that, you know what, good things are going to come from this. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to set that expectation. And when you start to set that, you start to appreciate it. You look at things differently. And there's a lot of ways you can do this online, and like there's therapy and stuff like that. But just ask yourself, what is the best thing that happened from this bad situation? Try it. It's not easy the first time. Kat and I, you and I have both done
Yeah.
this on
Oh
things
gosh.
on our own and together. And it's hard, but you start to find the good. And when you find one little, it's kind of like peeling off the wrapper around the sun. Once you get a little bit of light coming in, you find that it's a lot easier to let a lot more in as you go. And
I agree. No, I like that very much. And yeah, I mean, you reiterated what I said, and that is that sometimes it's really hard to see right after the incident, right? But even really hard things, I've tried to give a bunch of examples, but even really challenging things, we have both been through, tough relationship breakups. I've been through like a ton of different moves, right? I have several friends who became a lot tougher and stronger after a health scare or after a divorce, a lot more self-reliant, decided to develop more skills, travel more, do things. Like there's so many people who have had young cancer diagnoses, and then, the rest of their life, they live it with a lot more zest and appreciation for it. Again, this is not to diminish or to lighten any hard thing that people have gone through, but it's more just a chat to teach you, especially if you're going through a hard time, how you can reframe it, and how we promise that one day you will look back and you will see how all the pieces fell into place. It's just really hard to see right now.
exactly. And if you're somebody who's not going through a hard time right now, now's a great time to start training yourself to look back on those moments and go, yeah, I didn't get this job and that led me to this job, which led me to these people and this experience and that I never, like those are the tic-tac-toes that you kind of go through and look and go, wow, my whole life changed because I didn't get this job that I thought I really wanted. And I took this other one that I wasn't crazy about, but needed to work.
Yeah.
It ended up being the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I have several work experience stories like that. I know, Kat, you do too. Things
Mm-hmm.
just kind of lead you, I believe that you are always being led to the thing that you're truly meant to experience, to the best things in your life. It's not like, it's not fairy tales and rainbows, but it's a much better life. And I think often we feel that it has to be a certain way, and that causes a lot of the pain. I think
Yeah.
we come into things sometimes going, no, it had to be this person that was the best person for me, and
Yep.
they don't want to be with me. So that means that I'm nothing and my life is nothing and nothing good is ever going to happen. You're okay to feel that. You're allowed to feel however you want to feel. But when the hurt stops, when the healing begins, ask yourself, maybe what if this was the best thing that happened to me? What if something amazing was going to happen to me today? And you be open to that, your energy shifts and things change for you. But it really does begin with you and how you choose to look at it and stuff. And there is a grieving process. We're not saying like, to snap it like that. It just allow the things to happen. But know that the things that are usually the hardest are usually leading you to a really, really great path. And Kat, I think you and I can touch on that too. I know like for both of us, we're in a much better place because of each other and finding each other and being where we are right now. And I can say that, there are so many things that have had to happen in our lives for us to meet and line up
Yes.
and be the way that they are, that you and I have talked about it before. And I'm like, if I hadn't done this one thing,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have gone here and we wouldn't have met and this wouldn't have happened and this wouldn't happen. And all these things that have happened, I'm grateful for because I've learned to look back on everything and just be appreciative of all the things. So it's a daily practice, much like, sit ups or push ups or meditation or whatever. The more you start training your brain to kind of look for the good in the situation, the more you're going to be like, oh, wow, if I had still been with this person, I wouldn't have been able to go on this trip, or I wouldn't have been able to go to this concert and that, or, I wouldn't have been able to even go out to a coffee house and look at books today because I would have had to have done these other things. There
Right.
is joy everywhere. I think sometimes we gloss over the good parts because our brains are so ugly in looking at the negative all the time because it's a safety thing.
Sure. It's a
So
survival mechanism for sure.
it is. It's natural, but that's why you need to actively work on looking at the positive stuff. So, every relationship before you that's gone has shown you what you do and what you don't like and makes you stronger. Every job you've had and left or been fired from or has been terminated has shown you what aspects of work you like and what aspects you don't. You can be grateful for that. Every food you've had that tastes awful and you're like, I am never eating that again. I do not like foods that I cannot understand. That has led you down a path of knowing what foods you like and what foods you don't like. You're here for the life experience and
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's not always, happy, but it is how you look at it a lot of the time. And all your experiences are a foundation. I've used this example with you a lot of times, Kat. It's a Jenga puzzle. You
Hmm.
can't pull out one block without the whole thing collapsing. So this is you. This is how you are. Appreciate it and use what you have and who you are and what you've experienced to move forward towards something greater. You're never
Yeah,
starting over.
that's right. You're never starting over. You're starting from experience.
Love it. Well,
All
Kat,
right.
I think it's a good place to go to our glimmers. What is your glimmer for this week? What is your shiny, happy thing?
I don't know how shiny or happy it is, but I really like this ratio yogurt I've been eating. I've been trying to get a lot more protein into my daily diet here. And I haven't had yogurt in a while because we went on our little health journey, our little 2-year health journey or whatever. And yeah, I cut it out for a while and now I'm kind of slowly adding it back. And yeah, that's it. That's just me sharing yogurt today. What's yours?
I went shopping this weekend. I didn't have anything on the docket. It wasn't my kid weekend, and you weren't here this week, so I went shopping and I found these lamps that I'm just loving. They're like rectangular and they're alabaster, and we saw stuff like this I think when we were in New Orleans last year,
Yeah.
and like they were really expensive, and I found them at Marshall's for like very, very
So
affordable, like
much less.
$100. And I'm like, yes. And I just love the way they look. And I actually, and I told you this too, and I want to end on this, but I used to really love gold. And then certain people in relationships kind of like, gold's ugly, let's go silver. And it kind of fell out. And as I was driving around, I'm like, I want to get back into gold. Gold is first place.
Yeah.
I want to have that first place in myself feeling. So I'm switching back to gold and I'm really happy about it. Like I'm just delighted by the choices. And as soon as I decided that, I found these lamps like literally 5 minutes later. It was
I
so
love that. That makes me so happy. Yeah, we're very into the feng shui lately, and I love that gold is first place. I mean, I've got 2 gold picture frames behind my head right now if you're watching on YouTube. So I approve this message, and I like the new lamps you found. And anyone who's been listening to this podcast for a while knows I love a good deal, love good deal stories. So
yeah,
thank you for that.
it was. You're very welcome. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe and all the other things. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Hey guys, quick disclaimer. We're podcasters on the internet. If you need to seek professional help, please go see your healthcare professional.